Welcome into Unfiltered, everybody. A lot to get into today. We'll do some Eagles a little bit later. They had their first full padded practice. But we're going to start with the Philadelphia Phillies. Because contrary to a lot of social media comments and a lot of social media posts, the Philadelphia Phillies season did not end last night in Chicago, Ricky.
It didn't?
It did not end.
Huh. I thought it did. I thought it was all over. They lost to a bad team. What? Imagine that.
I could not believe. I shouldn't say I couldn't believe because I know we tend to overreact sometimes as Philadelphia fans. But as I was scrolling social media last night, you would have thought that was it. That was it. The season's over. They lost to the lowly White Sox. I can't believe it. This team's terrible. There were so many comments of people just giving up. Now, I don't want to necessarily make excuses for this team because, yes, they still have needs that were shown last night. When the bats go cold, they go cold. They only muster up 6 hits against a pretty bad pitcher and a pretty bad team. But Christopher Sanchez, not his best outing, gives up 4 earned, 2 home runs, one of them to a left-hander, the other one to a guy who may or may not be auditioning for the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I don't want to make an excuse, but I just want to highlight a reality here, Ricky. Mm-hmm. It was a long day for the Phillies getting to Chicago.
Let me explain what happened. They were in New York. There was a shutdown at Newark Airport. They stayed in the clubhouse at Yankee Stadium for 6.5 hours. 6.5 hours. So that game was a day game. They probably sat there till, 10 at night? And then finally, maybe 11 o'clock at night, and then finally rolled over to Newark Airport. And by the time they got out of there, they got into Chicago at 4 o'clock our time, 3 o'clock in the morning their time. Now, I will say this. Being a Major League Baseball player, you're kind of used to this kind of stuff because you do a lot of overnight flying. You have a lot of night games where you have a 2-3 hour flight afterwards, and you usually don't get into the hotel until around 3 o'clock anyways. So, I mean, is it an excuse? It could be. Maybe the guys were tired. You know, they were probably expecting to be in Chicago for dinner. They didn't quite get there for that. And sometimes it does beat you up a little bit. I mean, that's the only legitimate excuse they could have had was that they could have been a little tired. And Christopher Sanchez said he was a little sluggish at the beginning of the game, which would be probably from that. But he also went on to say it was hot and it was humid. That's the excuse you could throw away. Because nobody cares about that because last time I checked, baseball is meant to be played in the summer months anyways.
Yeah, and we got audio from both Rob Thompson and Christopher Sanchez I want to play. Let's start with Rob Thompson because he was asked about that long trip and were the guys just a little bit tired. Here was Rob Thompson.
I don't know, it happens. I hate to say that's a factor. It's kind of an excuse, but because they got to come out and play. But it was a long day, but we'll see tomorrow.
It was a long day, but we'll see tomorrow. And then you mentioned Christopher Sanchez saying he was a little bit fatigued. This was Christopher Sanchez.
I don't like to make excuses, but, yeah, we did have a long game, yes, a long day yesterday, a really long day. And I felt a little sluggish, but also the weather was really humid today. But, that was just a part of it. I did feel a little, uncomfortable out there.
All right, so there you go. Both of them, Rob Thompson says, I don't want to make an excuse. Sanchez says, I don't want to make an excuse. But then they pretty much make the excuse that they were long days and it was hot and you're fatigued. I'm not forgiving the Phillies for showing up and not beating up a bad Chicago White Sox team. But you also have to take it with a grain of salt and understand it's not the end of the season. This is still a team that is 60-46. They're only a game and a half back of the New York Mets, who lost to the Padres yesterday.
Thanks to?
Well, who ended up?
Gregory Soto.
Oh, Soto shut it down last night? I didn't even see that.
Yeah, he shut it down already. He gave up 2 runs in the ninth, or a run in the ninth.
Oh, yeah, he's on the Mets now.
Yeah.
The Mets made a trade for him. Wait, so that was his first outing with the Mets?
It must have been the first outing, yeah, and he ended up getting a loss.
I didn't even see that. But, look, I get that the fans who are frustrated with this team over the last few seasons, and you look at the last 48 games, they're only 24-24. Mm-hmm. They're a 500 team, and then they come out against the White Sox, and they do what they did yesterday. But Thursday is still the trade deadline. And I still firmly believe, Ricky, and I don't know if your opinion has changed, but I still firmly believe that when you have a starting rotation as good as this, and yes, include Sanchez in that, it wasn't a terrible outing. It just wasn't one of his best. It's going to happen. There's a reason why Sanchez was one of only 3 players in Phillies history to go, what was it, 6 straight games with over 6 innings and only 1 earned?
Yep.
And you're talking about him, Carlton, and Grover Cleveland Alexander. I mean, he was due to give up a couple of runs.
He really was. I mean, when you think about how well he's pitched in the last month, really, I mean, sooner or later, you're going to have a game where you're just not throwing the ball as well as you would want to. And, I mean, he even said it. I threw that slider, and it was right over the middle of the plate. He hit it out of the ballpark. And that's going to happen also. I think people have gotten so used to this Phillies rotation just dealing. Any bumps in the road now are going to cause people to start panicking. I think that's where we are right now. I don't think this has to do with, quote-unquote, Christopher Sanchez. I think it has to do with the starting rotation right now. We've seen a blip in Ranger after the All-Star break. We've seen a little blip in Wheeler after the All-Star break. Now we're seeing a blip in Christopher Sanchez, and I think they put it all together. I don't think they take it like these guys are human beings and they're entitled to a bad game every now and again. And by the way, you could look at other teams. Christopher Sanchez gave up 4 runs yesterday. A lot of teams, their starters do that every game. So, I mean, if the offense would have shown up last night, who knows what could have happened in this game. They scored 2 runs early, and then they shut it down.
For me, that was the more frustrating thing, was the offense. But I still firmly believe, and this has not changed over the last month and a half, that if Dave Dombrowski, before Thursday at 6 o'clock, gets another bat for this lineup and gets a high-leverage bullpen arm with this starting rotation and with Bryce Harper heating up and with Kyle Schwarber on pace to hit over 50 home runs, this team is good enough to be considered a true World Series contender. Yeah. And that's the question we're throwing out today, and I want to hear from people on the text board because I'm hoping that social media, you know how sometimes you read restaurant reviews and it's always the people who had a bad experience are the ones who comment under the restaurant review?
Yep.
I'm hoping that's what we saw last night on social media, and it's not a mass exodus of fans who are done with this team because they lost 1 game after being stranded in New York for 6 hours on their way to Chicago that are just giving up, because I still believe that this team, if the right moves are made, should be considered World Series contenders. I'm curious where you weigh in on that. Hit us up on the text board, 610-632-0975. Coming up, we will introduce our Twitter poll, which is pertaining to that very question, so curious where the masses weigh in. But I said earlier, Ricky, there could have been a guy on the White Sox last night that was auditioning for that trade deadline, who was saying to the Philadelphia Phillies, please come rescue me from Chicago. And I'm talking about Luis Robert Jr. And Rob Thompson was asked about Mr. Robert after the game. We'll get into all of that coming up. This is Unfiltered, 97.5 The Fanatic, NBC Sports Philadelphia.